So today we'll be taking another look at everything that happened on Smackdown with Roman Reigns' story and more. So let's take a look at all of our stories from last week, starting off with Toni Storm. We saw what seemed to be the start of some sort of relationship with Dolph Ziggler last week with Toni Storm. All the fans assumed that it could mean that Toni could have been on her way to becoming a love interest for Ziggler. But like we talked about last week, it was very possible that it was just a filler segment with no real purpose, just for them to use it as an excuse for having Toni Storm on the show. Well, 1 week later, there was no signs at all for any follow-up to that Ziggler and Toni interaction. Reports also claimed that Zelina Vega and Carmella vs. Toni Storm and Liv Morgan was set for SmackDown, but was cut due to time. Toni Storm's SmackDown run has been extremely disappointing due to the fact that she's never on SmackDown. She hasn't been seen in the ring since her debut match back on July 23rd, and the only time she has been seen after that was for the quick 10-second moment with Dolph Ziggler. And there's no follow-up to that interaction this week. Doesn't seem like it was a start to a storyline like everyone expected. But again, this is WWE. They can pick up and drop stories non-stop. So there's a chance that we could still see Dolph and Toni talking backstage in the future weeks. But like we mentioned last week, there's also a chance that they'll act like this conversation between them never happened. So we'll have to see what happens there, because Toni's only match on SmackDown has been her debut match, and she's been going on 2 months of being on the main roster. So that's not exactly what everyone expected from her main roster run, but we'll have to see what happens there for Toni Storm. As far as the latest on Sasha Banks goes, we're still all in the dark when it comes to her status. Many thought the big MSG show would be a great return spot for Sasha Banks. But like we saw, that obviously didn't happen. Instead, we saw a regular contract signing between Becky and Bianca. Becky did start to show a bit more heel characteristics during this segment as well. Becky didn't want to sign the contract and even called her audience regular people at one point. So just some more little hints there that Becky is in fact turning heel and turning on the fans. Becky did recently sit down for an interview with New York Daily News and talked about how she doesn't see herself as a heel. She had this to say: "I've just come back and now I feel like suddenly there's this conversation that I'm not doing things the right way. But I don't know what anybody expects me to do. Do you want me to come back and toy with Bianca and give her more of a chance to look like she's got an opportunity? Or would I come back knowing that I haven't done this in a while and be smart about it and blindside her? I just did what an intelligent person would do. If you haven't been wrestling in a long time, then you've been stargazing. You've been stargazing because you haven't been in the ring with this person. So then you are going to do something different. You are going to catch them off guard. And now suddenly I'm the bad guy because I came back even better than ever? I don't really understand this talk about me being a heel. I haven't changed. I just got smarter." This was actually great quotes from Becky. Sort of wish we heard her say this same thing on SmackDown, because it better explains her change in attitude. With all the time away from the ring, she spent that time truly analyzing the entire WWE scene, planning a new strategy, and like she called it, getting smarter, not changing. So the old Becky probably would have put her title on the line every week if the challenger was there. But the new and smarter Becky is thinking, why risk it? Why put the title on the line? Just turn the match down and you keep the title. So that interview was great because it really explained the change she went through. She's moving much smarter compared to how she was moving prior to her pregnancy, which is great. Obviously, coming off that huge hiatus, it was the perfect spot and opportunity to reinvent yourself, switch things up. So it's great that she took advantage of that. A lot of people were saying Becky's too popular, the heel turn will never work, but she was able to get a hardcore New York crowd to boo her. So that was a good sign for her heel potential. So in reality, Becky has turned heel, but in Becky's eyes, she just smartened up. She feels the same. As far as things go with Sasha Banks, we're in the same place that we were at in mid-August, without a clue. Reports claim that Sasha Banks was backstage at MSG, and it was her second SmackDown she attended since going missing in mid-August. Reports claim that there still hasn't been any creative conversations to write her back in, but that can change in a moment's notice. They can decide to bring her back as soon as next week, or hold her off even longer. Now let's take a look back at Roman Reigns because he has 4 storylines revolving around him. So let's take a quick dive back into these stories. Starting off with another Naomi update. Naomi approached Sonya Deville as Sonya was coming out of the elevator about being on the show, but Naomi received a similar answer that she's been getting for a few weeks now, and that's the fact that the show was too loaded and to come back next week. It definitely seems like Naomi's frustration is growing by the week, and honestly, who can blame her? It would be annoying to anyone if they were denied this many times. Paul Heyman was even asked about Naomi joining the Bloodline and said that just because someone isn't visually on screen with the Bloodline doesn't mean that they're not part of the group. Heyman also teased that the Bloodline has their eyes on everything that's going on at Smackdown. So he's not really telling too much of an actual substance there, but that's how Heyman is. He'll give you a riddle or two instead of an actual answer. But Heyman's answer is still interesting and hints at the idea that the Bloodline may already be aware of what's happening with Naomi. We know how Roman feels about his family, and Naomi is family. If she's not getting booked on SmackDown for weeks, we're to assume that Roman and the Usos will most likely step in at some point and say something there on her behalf. SmackDown also featured the return of Brock Lesnar. It seems like Brock Lesnar and Heyman aren't really together. Brock had every intention to F5 Heyman, but was saved by the Bloodline. The important thing here, and the biggest issue at hand, is the fact that Heyman did know that Brock was going to show up on SmackDown, but decided not to inform Roman Reigns. That's our main conflict now. Brock asked Heyman why he didn't tell Roman that he was coming to Summerslam, and that was enough to get the Bloodline to leave Heyman alone in the ring. They probably assumed that Heyman was on Lesnar's side at that very moment. But when Lesnar attacked Heyman, that's when they came back and sort of accepted Heyman back in. Then in a backstage segment before the main event, we saw Roman question Heyman again about how he didn't tell him about Brock. So now, our question becomes, why didn't Heyman tell Roman, and why did he lie about it? Well, there can be a lot of explanations. Maybe the main reason Heyman didn't tell Roman was because he's afraid that Roman can't beat Brock Lesnar. Maybe Heyman feels like this is the one opponent that Roman just can't beat, and decided to stay out of it and keeps his mouth shut. But even by keeping his mouth shut, he's still the focal point of the problem here. So that's where we're at right now with this story. We'll have to see how this continues to affect Heyman and Roman's relationship with one another. But what are your thoughts on today's stories? Leave your comments, don't forget to subscribe with all notifications on, and leave a like if you enjoyed. Thanks for watching, guys.